Hi guys, Edgar Ortega here, Handsome Blind Guy. Today I'm going to show you how you can learn, how you can memorize all of the United States presidents throughout United States history. Up to this point, there have been 46 United States presidents, and today you will not only learn them in order, but you'll be able to hear the name of any U.S. president in history and be able to say in what sequence they came in. You could say that's the 13th president, or yeah, this is the 27th president, or that was the 18th president. And this is a much better way to learn it than to learn through some mnemonic device of learning some complicated story that really doesn't have a lot to do with the United States presidents. I do it the old-fashioned way. I'll show you how you can do it and how you can access, how you can add this information to the totality of your knowledge so that you can access it at any point. In a previous self-learning video, that's what this video is, it's a self-learning episode, I showed you how learning happens in layers. And so this, as far as learning U.S. history or the United States president, this is layer 1, right? And so this is kind of the skeleton on which you can build deeper knowledge about U.S. history, about the presidents, about history in general, okay? And so we'll go ahead and start. I'll list all the presidents from memory, 1 through 46, and the number they're associated with, and then I'll begin to show you how you can put this into your body of knowledge so that you can access it at any time, all right? So we'll go ahead and start with the first president. Number 1, George Washington. 2, John Adams. 3, Thomas Jefferson. 4, James Madison. 5, James Monroe. 6, John Quincy Adams. 7, Andrew Jackson. 8, Martin Van Buren. 9, William Henry Harrison. 10, John Tyler. 11, James Polk. 12, Zachary Taylor. 13, Millard Fillmore. 14, Franklin Pierce. 15, James Buchanan. 16, Abraham Lincoln. What are we at? 17, Andrew Johnson. 18, Ulysses Grant. 19, Rutherford Hayes. Almost forgot that one. And finally, 20, James Garfield. 21, Chester Arthur. 22, Grover Cleveland. 23, Benjamin Harrison. 24, Grover Cleveland again. 25, William McKinley. 26, Teddy Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt. 27, Howard Taft. 28, Woodrow Wilson. 29, Warren Harding. 30, Calvin Coolidge. 31, Herbert Hoover. 32, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. 33, Harry Truman. 34, Dwight Eisenhower. 35, JFK, John F. Kennedy. 36, LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson. 37, Richard Nixon. 38, Gerald Ford. 39, Jimmy Carter. And 40, Ronald Reagan. 41, George H.W. Bush. 42, William Jefferson Clinton, Bill Clinton. 43, George W. Bush, George Bush Jr. 44, Barack Obama. 45, Donald John Trump. And finally, last is Joe Robinette Biden. All right, I think I got them all. I don't think I messed up. If I did, I'm sure you'll tell me in the comments. But that's all 46 presidents from memory and the sequence in which they came in. And not only have I learned them just because I say them in order, but at any time you can say any president and I can tell you which president they were. For example, you said Millard Fillmore. I could say, oh, that's the 13th president. Or you could say number 5, that was James Monroe. Number 6, John Quincy Adams. Or you could say number 35, that was JFK, right? And so if you apply this method that I'm about to show you to the learning process, to add this to the body of your knowledge, you will be able to do just this at any time. And that's the skeleton that we're going to build further knowledge on, but I'll go ahead and talk about that in just a bit. All right, so the best way to go about memorizing all of the United States presidents, or pretty much any list of things that you want to memorize, is simply by doing it incrementally. All right, you might start off by learning the first 5 presidents, right? So that'd be George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe. All right? if you know those 5 in that order, you're probably ahead of a lot of people, right? A lot of people can't name very many presidents in order, but you're doing this so you can name all of them, right? But you start out, let's say, with the first 5, or if you feel ambitious, if you can do it, with the first 10, right? So start with the first 5 and then look them up. If you don't, you'll probably forget them when you start, but look them up. Say, who was the first president? You can look it up. Second, third, fourth, fifth, right? And one easy way you can do this is by taking your smartphone. If you have an iPhone, you can use Siri. You can say, hey Siri, who was the 3rd president of the United States? Or who was the 5th president of the United States? It doesn't matter. You'll say that and Siri will tell you, she'll show you. I take advantage of the fact that Siri will speak to me because of my vision issues. So I could just say, hey, let's see, George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and who was the 4th? I could say, hey Siri, who was the 4th president? And Siri will say, James Madison. And you go, oh yeah. And then this way, remember the first 5. And then in your head, repeat them. Okay, say George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe. Okay, and once you can do that in your head, I want you to say it out loud. So not only have you taken in the information that you're trying to learn, say the first 5 presidents, now you've repeated it in your head to yourself. And now we got to do the output, okay? And so when now we're gonna say it out loud. I'm gonna say George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, right? And now you said it. You can say that over and over as much as you want. So now we've taken in the information, we've thought about the information, processed it, and kind of repeated it in our heads. And now we're doing some output, and we're saying it out loud. And there's another step. Now that you've taken the information in, that you've repeated it in your head, and that you've repeated it out loud, I want you to take a piece of paper or a notebook and write down number 1, George Washington, 2, John Adams, 3, Thomas Jefferson, 4, James Madison, 5, James Monroe. So now you've taken the information in, you repeated it in your head, you processed it, you've said it out loud, and now you're writing it down. Another form of output. The best way that you can learn any number of things is by taking in information, so that's input, right? But to do probably twice as much output as you do input. And by doing this, you are solidifying these things into your mind, into your memory, and the more you repeat them, the easier it'll be to access that information. So go ahead and learn the first 5 presidents, repeat this process, do it in your head, say it out loud, write it down. And when you write it down, I recommend you do it a few times. Let's say you remember the first 3, you don't remember who the 4th president was, and so you say, hey Siri, who is the 4th president? She tells you it's James Monroe. You go, oh yeah. And then you continue writing it down, number 4 and number 5, right? And then do it again until you can do it without looking it up, until you could do it at least 2 or 3 times, writing down the first 5, perfectly without messing up, right? And you're going to do this repeatedly. You might, I don't know how long you want to stick with the first 5 before you move on to the next 5, or if you start with the first 10 before you move on to the next 10, however you want to do it. But incrementally, over time, as you do this in a rather quick amount of time, you can learn this quite easily. You can learn them all in a few days, but you could probably give yourself a little longer if you need it. But go ahead and start, okay? It's very important that you start the process so that you can put it into memory. And after you've learned all 46 presidents up to this point, you can begin to add meat onto those bones, right? It's really cool that you learn them all, that you know all the United States presidents, that you know what order they came in, and that you could hear the name of any president. You can say, that was the 13th president, that was the 18th president, that was the 40th president. Just like that, right? From memory, because you practiced it. It's really important that we put these things into our memory, especially matters when it comes to our own history, when it comes to civics, when it comes to understanding how our government works, right? We can begin tying these things to previous information that we already knew. The best way that you can solidify information, new material that you're learning at any point in the learning process, is to attach it to previous knowledge. So if there's something you already know about a topic, You begin tying that new information in, and you create this kind of spider web of knowledge, right? And your body of knowledge will grow, it'll expand, and the more you learn about history, philosophy, science, whatever it is you want to learn, the greater your experience, the greater your perspective, and the better you can form informed opinions about the world, especially when it comes to politics, right? It's really important that citizens vote, but it's probably just as important that people are informed about who they're voting for, that we understand our past history so that we are not influenced by individuals with malicious intentions, right? That want to teach us things just so we believe as they do. A lot of times people will teach you things that aren't necessarily true. They're just trying to teach you their ideologies, their ways of thinking, right? But you want to be an independent thinker. You want to know your past history so that you are not as easily influenced by those who are misinformed about history, right? You might hear a lot of bad things about history. You might hear things like the Constitution is racist and we should do away with it. That's not true. It's not true at all, actually. And the more we learn about history, the more we'll be able to spot an error when somebody says something that's erroneous, something that's not true, and something that could be quite damaging. I strongly encourage you to continue this learning process. Learn the United States presidents, learn civics, learn the Bill of Rights, learn the Constitution, learn our history, learn all of this stuff. It's really important. Now, you have all 46 presidents memorized over time. You've done it. You've been standing in line, right? You have nothing better to do, and you kind of went over the list in your head up to the point where you've learned, maybe you just started the first 5 still, and you're sitting in line, or you're standing in line, and you're thinking it in your head, and it kind of helps out. Repetition. I do it the old-fashioned way. Take the information in, repeat it in your head, and when you have time, maybe before bed, before going to sleep, it kind of might help you go to sleep. I learn a lot of lists, a lot of information, and I have a bunch of lists that I could just repeat in my head, and I do this a lot before I fall asleep. I'll list these things these things that I'm trying to memorize, and then I'll fall asleep, and then maybe the next day, it's kind of easier, right? Because when you sleep, your brain rearranges things, puts things into long-term memory, decides it's important, say, we're going to keep this, right? Because it keeps repeating that list, so we're going to remember this. Okay? So start out with the first 5, the first 10, go up to 20 if you think you can, and within a few days, you will be able to recite, or maybe sooner, you'll be able to say all 46 presidents. And the more you do it, I strongly recommend that you do it for a while and then kind of don't do it. And then like maybe a few days later, a week later, try to do it again. And you might not remember some of them or some of the order, but be sure to remember to associate the number of the president with that president, the order in which they became United States presidents with the president, okay? So when you hear the names, let's say you hear number 21, you'll think, oh, that's Chester Arthur, right? Or number 16, everybody knows Abraham Lincoln. 36, LBJ, right? And so you'll be able to do that quite easily. Okay, so associate the number with the presidents that you are learning. That's really important. That's much better than these other mnemonic devices that are out there. You might see videos about learning a story about washing machines and apples and atomic bombs and all sorts of things like that. But those aren't going to be able to tell you the order in which they came. You'll be able to recite them in order if you learn it that way. But if you learn it this way, you'll be able to hear them out of order and know the order in which they came. Okay, so that's really important. And then you begin to add meat to it. So let's start adding some meat to it. To this learning the skeleton, the 46 presidents, that's real shallow knowledge. It's kind of fun to learn it, be able to do it, but you're learning a chronology. It's really important, but it's really shallow because yes, you know all the presidents, but can you tell me anything about those presidents, right? And that's level 2. So this is layer 1. I'll do another video with layer 2, but you can begin this process by looking up facts and information about the president. So you learned all 1 through 46. Good job, or you're going to. Good job ahead of time. But maybe you could start looking up facts, like which president was born on the 4th of July? Calvin Coolidge, right? Or maybe you could say, which was the tallest president? Abraham Lincoln, number 16. Who was the shortest president? James Madison. think he was 5'4". He was shorter than Napoleon. Which president drafted the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights? Again, James Madison, right? Number 4. Let's see. Which presidents were assassinated? Which ones were killed? There's 4 of them. Most of you can name 2 of them. They were Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, William McKinley, and John F. Kennedy, right? You guys probably knew 2 of those, but those are them. That was number 16, 20, 25, and 35. You can remember these facts by remembering their numbers, or you can remember the names of the presidents. Either way you associate with them, but you remember that. Let's see, what else? Let's see. If I name the estate, can you tell me who lived there? About Mount Vernon. Who lived on Mount Vernon and at Mount Vernon? George Washington. Number 1, right? Monticello. Thomas Jefferson. Number 3, right? Graceland. President Elvis Presley. And Monte Cristo. Edmond Dantes. Those last 2 weren't presidents, but you get the idea. So we begin to pile on these facts, put some meat on those bones of the skeleton that we learned, and over time you can start adding information that will grow into this huge spider web of knowledge that you've been able to accumulate over time and becoming way super smart because you decided to watch this video and to learn all 46 presidents and put them to memory, and you can recite them just like I did. All right, so that's it for this video. Watch for part 2 when I show you level 2 and how you can learn level 2 knowledge of the United States presidents. This was simply a memorization video on how you can go about it. Remember, take the information input, and then do twice as much output. Think it in your head, analyze it in your head, repeat them in your head whenever you have time, whenever you're standing in line or sitting somewhere in a waiting room or about to go to bed. Just repeat these lists in your head, right? Write them down, say them out loud, right? You can even walk around your bedroom and say, number 1, George Washington, number 2, John Adams, and so on and so forth, until you can do all 46. You'd be surprised how quickly you can do this, and you can be a hit at parties by being able to name any number president, or at least what order they came in, right? I don't know if you'd be a hit. You might be alone in the corner if you tried doing that, but I think it's something fun to learn, and I hope you do too. So give it a shot. Learn all 46 United States presidents, all of the presidents in United States history. Give it a try. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it to the end, give this video a like, and be sure to subscribe to this channel. Hit the subscribe button. That really helps me out. And if there's anything you want to add, let me know in the comments section. And please be sure to share this video. I really appreciate that. It really helps me out as well. So until my next video, my name is Edgar Ortega, Handsome Blind Guy, and I'll see you in that next video.